that would be satisfactory to us.
So you would be acceptable for the delaying for a month?
No, we don't want to
You want an
delay.
action tonight?
Yes.
So,
Even if the continuance would allow you to bring the fourth option before us?
I'm hearing your discussion, and I think it's the same discussion now as it is.
okay, so what I would need to know is, of options 1, 2, or 3, which do you prefer?
Two. That's the variance we applied for.
All right.
Okay,
good.
and the only reason the other ones were on there is because I was asked to put them on the drawing.
Okay. And staff's recommendation is 3 or 1, correct?
Correct.
All right,
So
good.
you would, as an action, you would prefer us not to extend this, but to have action tonight, whatever it is?
Yes.
Sure. All right. Then, if that's the case, we need a motion to rescind the prior motion.
We'll make a motion to rescind the project.
And I'll second that.
Oh, there we go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Prior motion is rescinded. Now, we have several things to do.
All right. I will make a motion pursuant to the motions that we have before us, that I move the planning commission approve the variance of 395 Atherton Avenue based on the findings and the reasons enumerated in the staff report, subject to the conditions listed in the draft variance to allow 45-foot front, side, and rear setbacks for the main residence. And that would allow the applicant to choose option 1 or 3, if they chose not to exercise 3. What it does is it approves option 3, all right? And they walk away with the approval of option 3.
But we have to, we can't leave number 1 in place. 'Cause that was the action they requested.
I know, but
They can request that we rescind the variance,
right,
and then they would be, the code would apply.
then it would
The
automatically.
basic code requirements would apply.
So if they did not want the variance, they automatically get 1.
It includes one.
Right. So my motion is only about the option 3.
Right.
Right.
Is there a motion? The motion's been to approve option 3. Is there a second?
A second.
All seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Please?
Yes.
Aye? Four. Okay, the option 3 is approved.
The applicant is requesting the variance be for a term of 3 years. We have in there 1 year based on past practice from the commission, and I guess they need some time to prepare design drawings. Used would be typically pulling a building permit would activate the variance. So if they don't pull a building permit in 1 year, it would expire, or they would need to come back to you, for an extension. So the applicant has requested a longer time period.
What's the precedent for that?
When did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, she mentioned it ahead of time, Andrea mentioned it in the presentation,
Right.
but I think
Yeah.
it didn't get expressly discussed in your presentation.
Yeah, well, I was specifically not part of my motion. I knew that, and I didn't make part of the motion.
Okay, and that was,
Unless anybody wanted to add.
what was the vote, I'm so sorry. One,
Right now,
four,
right now it's a year.
No,
Right,
what
but
was
what was the vote on that motion, I'm sorry?
Pardon me?
Did everybody vote in favor?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Any further action? I guess not. There you go. You have 10 days to appeal to the council if you don't like the action that's taken here this evening.
Is the time okay? The time frame?
They approved just 1 year, they didn't extend it.
Wow.
That wasn't a miss, that was the motioner's decision.
It was,
They made a decision not to grant that time extension that you requested.
did you all consider it? Or did you forget about
I
it?
did, and I made the motion, yeah.
Okay.
It did not include that.
And there was I saw no precedence to do it either, so just for that was the context behind it. And it's always an option to come back for a request for extension if that takes longer. The 3 years is too long. It's for the neighbor.
We're completed with that issue right now. Next item on our agenda is the conditional use permit at 50 Valparaiso. Conditional use permit to allow the construction of an addition to the stand hall and an addition to the J.D. Marks building and design building. Staff report, please.
Thank you. The item before you is a request for a conditional use permit to allow 2 additions to the property at Menlo School. And one is to an addition at Stent Hall, and that would be to allow a head of school addition. And it's approximately square feet, second-story addition, and that would be used for the offices of the head of school. And then the other addition is to the Creative Arts and Design Center, and that addition has a footprint of 2,500 square feet and a total floor area of approximately 7,500 square feet. It's a two-story addition with a basement level. Both of the proposed additions comply with the setback requirements, the floor area, lot coverage, every other requirement of that code section. And as far as the environmental analysis, the Stent Hall is considered a historic structure. So we had a little more detailed analysis done to see if there would be any negative impact associated with that addition. And as well, there was previous mitigated negative declarations prepared for each project. And so based on consultation with our CEQA consultant, we've decided to proceed with an addendum to that mitigated negative declaration. And Katrina Hart-Pollock is here this evening and can kind of walk you through that document a little bit more. But essentially, the analysis is that there's no additional impacts associated with this project. There's no need, therefore, also for any new mitigation measures. And so we would just carry forward the relevant mitigation measures from that other document that was previously certified. As such, the document does not need to be recirculated as an addendum. And so it is before you this evening for consideration, as well as the conditional use permits. So maybe at this time I can have Katrina walk you through or answer any questions you have. And then the applicant is going to want to give a presentation. And then there's also a letter that you have before you from an attorney representing one of the neighbors. You also have a letter from that neighbor expressing concern. I believe the attorney is here as well.
Hi, I'm Katrina Hart-Pollock. I am with MIG. We're an environmental and planning firm in Berkeley. And we prepared an addendum to the mitigated negative declarations that were prepared previously. So the history kind of Lisa gave you was in 1996. Menlo School had a proposal in front of the town for the Stent Hall addition, and an initial study mitigated negative declaration was circulated for that. And in 2008, another environmental document was circulated for the Creative Arts and Design Center building. So this document is an addendum to both of those initial studies as allowed under CEQA. The Stent Hall addition is on top of the addition that has already been constructed. It's 1,200 square feet, and then the Creative Art and Design Center is a 7,500 square foot addition to that building. CEQA allows for addendums to be prepared for projects where there's no new impact, no significant change to the impacts that were analyzed previously. So our document looked at whether we fit inside the impacts that had already been analyzed, and we do. Historic report was prepared. Stent Hall is eligible for listing under the National Register of Historic Places, as well as the California Register. And the addition that was constructed in 1998 was in keeping with the Secretary of the Interior standards, so there was no impact to the historic integrity of the structure. The 1,200-foot addition that's proposed would be in keeping, similar materials, similar design, so there would be no impact from this addition. All the mitigation measures that are relevant to the project, there were a few from the previous documents that are not relevant, so they weren't carried forward, but mitigation measures for air quality during construction, noise during construction, and traffic and parking during construction. There were no impacts from operation of these buildings. So I don't know if you have any other questions.
William, is that over there?
No.
Paul? Okay.
Not on the impact statement.
I have one. Just a funny question, I think. How long ago were you engaged to make this addendum? How many months ago?
Boy,
Roughly.
you know, I think starting in March, because the cultural resources report had to happen first. So we did not start to work on this document until August. So
But February and March were what? started?
The cultural resources report had to start earlier. That was the one standalone report. And so that, I didn't, our firm, that was to JRP, a historical consulting firm. They may have started it in April or May, but I think they started giving a scope of work to the town, probably, I don't know if it's March or April. It was spring.
Especially, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a little foggy on that. I do know I started on this in August, and that's when the contract came in, so.
Eric, anything?
No, I'm not, I'll come back to staff on anything I've got on the report.
Thank you.
If I could just make another comment. So what you have before you is the request is for, essentially I prepared as 2 conditional use permits. So you could take each item separately if you were prepared to approve one, and you could potentially continue the other item if you need some more time or want the applicant to maybe meet with an adjacent neighbor further. That's certainly an option, you could do that.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant here and like to speak?
Absolutely. Good evening. I'm Dan Healy. I'm the head of school. We haven't met. The other commissioners will be either pleased or dissatisfied to know that they haven't fired me yet. So I'm
You
back.
missed a lot in not meeting them.
What's that?
You missed a lot in not meeting them.
You've been here long enough for it to.
Well, we may get a good chance to know each other.
Oh, no.
I am pleased to be here. I do appreciate your time. We have 2 proposals, as you read, and David McAdoo, our Director of Operations, will walk you through the details on each of those proposals. Just sort of generally and briefly, the first project is, as you heard, for offices in a conference room on the east side of Stent Hall. The project, it was important to us to design it to be respectful of a historic building and to hopefully enhance the look of that building, and I think the design accomplishes both of those ends. It does make use of a seldom used terrace space on that side of the building, and in doing so maintains the footprint of the building. I like it because it makes use of a current footprint and it doesn't add to the footprint on the campus, and I think that's the right way to go. It will allow for our admissions office to gain the space that it needs to handle increased applications. We were fortunate to have record applications last year. Currently, we have staff who are housed, one in a closet and one in a common space, which took away a conference room that we had. I do want to emphasize that because it's been an issue in the past, and I want to make sure that you're clear on this, none of what we're doing has anything to do with increasing the number of students or staff. What we're really talking about is just handling the applications that we've got coming in. So that's the first proposal. The second proposal is phase 1 of what we hope will be eventually a dining hall project that we've been speaking to the Planning Commission about for a while now. It's a building that's designed, again, with a minimal footprint by tapping into the facilities in an existing building.
Where's the dining room?
It's in the narrative.
It'll be in the narrative, but it's on the back side of Stent Hall, on the addition to Stent
On the
Hall.
lower side?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, on the first floor down there. By creating this space, again, trying to tap into the existing facilities in a building that already is there, we can reduce the footprint of the building. It also allows us to move our entire technology program out of the first floor of Stent Hall and into that building. That's the need that it's filling, and that creates space in the first floor of Stent Hall that, if we were fortunate enough to raise the funds and design a plan that works, we would be able to create a dining hall down the line. The other aspect that I think, 2 other aspects that I think are significant, we have a commitment to continue our separation from the college, a project of great joy that I inherited, and I think we're getting close. A separate dining hall is part of that covenant, so we're making active steps in that direction as is part of our separation agreement. And the last thing is, we're hoping that by plugging the hole in that side of the campus, we can reduce noise and light coming from the interior of the campus, and again, reduce the impact on the So I'll turn it over to David. He's setting up his easel for you, which I'm sure you're excited about. And I'll be here to answer questions if you have.
I had a quick question. So
Yeah.
last time we were doing this, this whole plan, it wasn't clear when this was gonna come forward. And pretty soon it came faster than I might have thought at that time it came forward. So what changed?
Two things changed. One is we were able to sort of retain significant reserves out of last year's budget, which makes this possible, so we have the financial
I remember that
capacity
you
to be
said
able
that
to do
was
that. And the second piece really was, at least for us, the sense that this is gonna be a phased project, and if we were gonna have construction on campus for offices, it may make sense to try to economize and make the best use of construction trailers and things like that. So
Okay.
it's a way to try to save some money in a tough market.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a couple of questions, or just a comment. If we had your middle school master plan, so-called, in May of this year, and all it had in it was a couple little drawings showing proposed additions. No comment about timeline, when this was gonna happen or anything else. I think I made the comment at the time that let's not have this looking back over our shoulder and say where we've been. We wanna know where you're going. Now, I'm pretty sure you have a 5-year plan somewhere. I mean, maybe we don't need to know all of the details and how the finances work, but we would sure like in the future to see where you're headed, not where you've been.
I think we're happy to do that, and in all candor, if we had this plan, further down the road, we would have presented it as a more likely option. It's something that came up late, and it's a possibility that presented itself, and it's an opportunity that we wanted to take.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, David said something, I have a question maybe for you. The really god-awful ugly beams, high beams, coming out of the side of Douglas Hall, I've been there a long time.
The Douglas family would like that you call it Douglas Hall.
Is my master voice. Is there no way to, while you're restructuring, to get the head of school done, to get rid of that aesthetic blight?
I'll turn it over to somebody who knows more about engineering than I do.
I have one more follow-up comment.
Go ahead.
The one thing I think you're coming up against again and again and again is because of the history of the site and the neighbors and the way the neighbors have been sort of feeling like they're sort of brought in late on things and maybe not their concerns not being heard. There's a transparency and a sort of authenticity issue that has grown around you. Okay, now you're almost here long enough to have it be your fault, but you've inherited it. But I think what we keep coming up against is this same thing again on this property. I know that everybody's well-intended and everything like that, but the belief of the neighbors about transparency and inclusion is not there. And so when you have these things and we get letters from lawyers that cost somebody something, it's because of that. All right, so you're good at executing plans, you're good at proposing plans. Whatever it is, you've got a weakness around inclusion and transparency that people believe in. And so, for what it's worth, to make this process easier for us, I remember when you said that about the plan. So what's going to happen on this plan? And it was like we haven't done it, we haven't thought of it yet, and boom, it's here, and it's procedurally correct, but doesn't feel transparent and authentic. So for what it's worth, all right. So. That's all I have.
Can I ask you a question, Commissioner Lynn, just about that? And this is not intended to be sort of too aggressive of a question, but I'm wondering if there's a sentiment that the school was intentionally deceiving the town, because I think that's an important sentiment for me to understand if that sentiment exists.
Well, I don't see the great thing about my involvement on this for this site and this school is I had no preconception a year and a half ago or whenever I started on the planning commission about anything about this.
Right.
And everything about the perception I have around it right now is the process I've seen happen on the field and on all the things we've seen, which is neighbors coming and saying, I don't get why this is happening, I don't get why this is happening. And there's something there that I had no perception of, that every time we get a proposal from you is there. So to me, that is a bigger issue than whether or not the building sits in the footprint, whether it doesn't, you know, it doesn't do all these other things. There's something there that has a natural resistance because of history of the way the neighbors feel they were treated, that is there. And when I think back about the hearing we had about this particular aspect of this property, oh, by the way, we might be doing this, but we don't have any plans yet, and then it shows up, and the drawings look pretty good, and if the drawings were this fast to turn around, the last applicant might want to use the architect. But the idea was that thing seems like it came from just an idea to a fruition faster than I would expect if it weren't in somebody's mind that we could do these three things if this lined up. I would have rather have had you say, we've got some concepts, we've got some ideas about what we could be doing here. We don't know how it's funded. If we did, it kind of would be like this concept, and what would have been put on the table at that point, and we would be talking about something we talked about. But we're talking about something now that we didn't quite think was going to come up, and it couldn't have been put together this fast unless it was a concept in somebody's mind.
I'll chip in.
That's my answer, thank you.
Years ago, we had a little trouble with some of the private schools, the two of them. And so we initiated the idea of having the schools provide us with a master plan every year. And the idea was that we would get that plan and the neighbors would have a look at it and be able to say, this is, we see where they're going, what's happening. Not, we looked over our shoulder, this is what we did last year, and so forth and so on. We want to know, and the neighbors want to know, what's coming up, what's going to happen next. And that's what the idea was. We can't do that to the public schools, but we sure can do it to the private schools, and we have, with fairly good success, not great, I don't think, but much better than it was. There's no idea that there's deception on your part or the school's part, any of the school's part. It's just that we want to know ahead of time what's going to go on.
To the degree that we're able to get that to.
Right, and to the degree you can say, we've got some ideas that we're not clear on right now, but to let you know, here's the concepts that we would be driving with. We wouldn't increase footprint, we would be looking to maintain architecture. Those concepts are there in your head, and part of what you think about, that would have even been good to say at that point.
If we'd had those, we would have definitely shared those.
Yeah.
You know.
And frankly, I'm pleased with the way you've approached everything since you've been here, so it's not about you or anything else. It's
I'm not
about-
here to that way. It's just helpful to know if there's a sentiment in the
There's a
town.
legacy
Yeah.
here that we keep bumping against, and it needs to be addressed back.
Oh, that's helpful to know. Thanks.
Thank you.
With that, I'll turn it over to David.
Can I just make one quick comment? My name's Jeff Berry, may be a familiar face. I'm a resident of Atherton for 20 years, a former trustee at Menlo School, and I've been involved with the school's building and grounds committee for over a decade. There is a false perception from at least two of you on the board that I wanted to address. David and Than weren't expecting me to speak. I sit on the buildings and grounds committees today. I'm no longer a parent. I had 4 kids go through Menlo, but I was a 6-year trustee. And I still sit in and I have some unofficial capacity of working with David and the school just to kind of have some historical memory of the neighbors because I've been involved with that for a decade. So I was in the buildings and grounds meetings in the spring, and there was no plan that you're seeing tonight in the last buildings and grounds meeting in May. So one of the things that I observed about Menlo School when I sat on the board is it's the best functioning organization I've ever seen in terms of professionalism and their ability to come up with decisions and move forward on them and things that make a lot of sense in periods of time that would surprise you, and particularly probably surprise you in the capacity you sit here and the kinds of process you go through. So the reason I want to get up and speak is I can see some line of questioning here that really suggests, in my view, some sense of bad faith that the school knew more in the spring about what it intended to spring on you in this fall. And that's, I can tell you, is not the case. Secondly, I've known Ed and Fran for a long time who wrote the letter, and I consider them honest brokers. And when I first heard about this building that directly impacts them, or they believe directly impacts them, I assumed that would be viewed as good news when I first heard it, because it deals with the sight, light, and sound issues that can escape our campus. And so there'll be a lot more talk about it, and I understand that Ed and Fran are still processing, but I will tell you that David and I were both surprised and taken aback when we were dealing with them, and I think maybe there was some process, and I'm not trying to in any way, deal with that part of it here, but I'm just telling you that somebody who's known them for longer than I've been at Menlo School, that there are real benefits that we thought that they would see in this, that at least thus far they haven't. So anyway, I just wanted to make those comments, because I feel like since I was here in the spring and there was a line of questioning that really questioned the integrity of the school, which was not true, hearing it again tonight is very disturbing to me. I understand why you believe that, and I'm not questioning your motives. I'm just telling you, you're kind of going down the wrong path. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, David?
I'm not gonna rely on the computer to get up and work. We're going old school here.
We're going effective.
Oh, yeah.
Pardon?
We're going effective.
Yeah, well, we hope so.
You got a camera behind you, so I want to slide it over a little bit farther.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna make that a lot worse here.
Yeah. Actually, covering my face might be a good strategy.
All right. Well, let's see, this might be.
Take the mic with you.
A little, oh, there you go. This is a lavalier mic? No, this is fine.
Just pull it over.
David McAdoo, Director of Operations and Construction, Menlo School. And I just wanted to, Dan has given a really good overview of the project, and I wanted to just walk you through some details and make sure that you understand the project and what our intention is. It is two projects. One is an addition to Stent Hall for two new offices and a conference room. And we really think, I've been very pleased with working with the architect, and I was thinking that, yes, we do have a pretty good architect who works very quickly. But the project on Stent Hall, I think, integrates beautifully into the building. It actually improves, in my mind, the look of the building, and it looks like it's always supposed to, it always was intended to be that way. It's a relatively minor project at 1,250 square feet, and a relatively short duration project. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but it is pretty straightforward. The other project is, we call it our Technology and Business Center, TBC, which is an addition, functionally it's an addition to an existing building, the Creative Art and Design Center. And it was designed here again to integrate into the existing CADC building. It has the same architecture, same architecture, same materials, same colors. All the design features of the original building are carried over into the new section. It conforms to all the setbacks and all the ordinances involving how big a building it can be. It is one story in the ground, so it's a basement level, and then a main floor, and then a second story above that. The basement level and the main floor are our technology department, and those departments, those two floors are integrated pretty well together, and a lot of connectivity between them to make a really functional department. As Dan said, the purpose for moving the technology center into that building is to get them out of Stent Hall. There might have been some confusion about where the dining hall is going to go. And it is in this portion of Stent Hall. So it's in an existing footprint, an existing building. And it takes up this part of the building. This is not we don't have drawings for this building. This is something that we will be working on shortly to come up with concept drawings and initial design development. But there is nothing to show you this evening. But what I do know is that I need to get this department out of here, and technology department